Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning because we have a lot of updates. We've got a lot of new additions, new nominations from President-elect Donald Trump. Just a lot of breaking news this morning. Not breaking news necessarily when it comes to the nominations. You heard Dr. Oz being picked. We're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about this fight over Matt Gaetz. The New York Post has an opinion piece this morning actually suggesting that Trump drop Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard. Now, to a point, I understand dropping Gaetz or suggesting dropping Gaetz to a point. When it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, I don't understand exactly why there is an all-out attack on her, though there are some, and we've had people that watch this show say that they're a little concerned about perhaps, or for lack of a better word, to use the media's word, loyalty to Trump. So we are going to talk about that extensively later on in the program. First off, showing you a little bit of the, wacky and sometimes unhinged anger at Trump. First of all, you can take advantage of this. Were you one of the people that are still reeling from the election? You really wanted to see Kamala Harris, Tim Walz in the White House, and you can't believe that the country elected overwhelmingly Donald Trump, which, by the way, the new talking point is it isn't overwhelming. I don't know. I haven't learned, I guess. Well, if you're one of those people, I have an offer for you. A small Italian village is offering villas for just $1 to Americans who were sent into a tailspin and looking to flee the country after Donald Trump's decisive 2024 presidential election win. I'm going to try to pronounce the village here. The village of Ollolai, Ollalai, is offering real estate for as little as $1.06 in a pitch to woo Americans who fancy the expat lifestyle in the wake of the election. According to a statement from their communications department, are you worried about global politics? Are you worn out by global politics? Looking to embrace a more balanced lifestyle while securing new opportunities? It's time to start building your European escape in the stunning paradise of Sardinia. The promotion boasts of the beautiful climate, incredible food, and ancient traditions that offer a healthier and fuller life. The mayor of the town of Ollolai says that Americans are their target buyer. We just really want and will focus on Americans above all, said Mayor Francesco Colombo. We can't, of course, ban people from other countries to apply, but Americans will have a fast-track procedure. We are betting on them to help us revive the village. They are our winning card. Already, they have been flooded with over 38,000 requests for information on houses, most of which the requests came from the United States. The mayor has even formed a specialized team to help guide international buyers through every step of the purchase process. The area is renowned for being one of 5 places in the world considered a blue zone. Blue zones are locations around the world where people notably have higher than average life expectancies. Oh, very interesting. The average life expectancy in that province, 79 years old for men, and 85 years old for women. They note that they are one of the first towns in Europe to offer the most famous $1 deals for villas and houses. That offer, made with the concept of economic revitalization, this has become fixtures of real estate in the old world, it says here. Now, these bargains are for properties that require a significant amount of renovation. The town is also offering abodes that are more expensive but require less investment to achieve a livable standard. Ready-to-occupy houses are priced at $105,000. Now, according to the mayor, the village does remain half empty. So if you are one of the people that told your friends, because you wanted to act like a very important political figure, you wanted to act as if your emotions matter more than others, and you said, if Trump wins, I am moving out of America. I'm leaving the country. Well, welcome to Ollolai, where you can get a $1 home. There's some celebrities. I should take them up on that. Also, since we're going to go on a little bit of unhinged here, there is and I don't know why I'm starting with all this, but a Memphis florist who refused to serve customers who voted for President-elect Donald Trump has been forced to close up shop temporarily after receiving quite a nasty backlash over her decision. Now, this is, and I've always found this very fascinating, because you'll see perhaps a liberal outlet, like maybe if you travel to Ithaca or some local shops that are catering to the left, whether it be books or, performances and things like that. And they always have the sticker that says safe space. That's a safe space. And I've always thought to myself, well, if I were wearing a MAGA hat, for instance, would that be a safe space for me? Or is it just certain groups that it's a safe space for? Or is that a blanket statement? It's a question I think worth asking. Well, Everbloom design owner Kristen Wolter announced her shop would be closed through the end of the week, quote, due to threats to me and my business, since laying down her controversial sales policy last week. Quote, I knew standing up for what I believe in would have consequences. They're showing their true colors and lack of decency and humanity. So you're saying you will not serve over half of the voting population because you disagree with their politics. Perhaps you even think of them as garbage, as President Biden does, or deplorable, or anti-American, anti-women, like Governor Hochul believes. Because you refuse to serve your fellow Americans, you're upset that people are upset with you. And maybe you didn't expect a backlash. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I would think any business would say, hey, at the end of the day, it's about making money. The old adage, and I don't even know if he actually said it. I think he did, but Michael Jordan gets quoted often as saying Republicans buy shoes too. That idea that the business is supposed to be about making money, but no, this is for taking a stand. Kind of an unknown stand, I guess. Just if you voted for Trump, you don't deserve to buy flowers. It was others, and I think rightfully so, calling out the hypocrisy that Wolter was the one showing a lack of humanity. I won't do business with people who support the president-elect, she said in a video posted on her shop's Instagram. It is because I need to create a safe place for me, my staff, and my family. So again, safe place. That's kind of the definition of a bubble. It's not necessarily a safe place, but you just need to be surrounded by people that confirm your worldview. And that's why, Stephen Colbert and Harris and others went on Stephen Colbert and The View, because that's what the left tends to like, is have their worldview confirmed. That's why MSNBC's ratings were so high on election night and plummeting so greatly the day after. On Monday, Wolter shared some of the vile voicemail she received since making her announcement. And I want to be clear when I bring this story to you. I don't encourage anybody making some of the, because there's some bad things here. I can't read them and stay on the air. I'll put it that way. But so I don't encourage that one way at all. But at the same time, I'm not exactly sure what you thought was going to happen when you say you can't serve anybody that supports the president-elect. Now, as the internet is wont to do, there was a lot of personal attacks on her, appearances and like that, completely unnecessary. But some accused Wolter of discrimination and even threatened lawsuits. But in Tennessee, there's not really legal ground to stand on. Businesses in the volunteer state have the right to refuse service so long as their reasoning does not violate the Human Rights Protection Act of Tennessee, okay? Groups covered include age, race, and gender, but political beliefs is not a protected class in Tennessee. But this is what I mean about the business aspect to it. The state that she runs her business in overwhelmingly voted for Trump on Election Day. Now, in her county, Shelby County, it was one of the few places across Tennessee that did actually back Harris. Now, she had previously expressed disdain for Trump supporters. I will make it perfectly clear. I will not do any business with or support anyone that supports Trump. The lives of my children depend on it. Do you feel kind of, I will, and this was, the day, 2 days after the assassination attempt that she made that statement. You've got to feel bad almost for someone like this that has been so brainwashed or propagandized to believe that someone's children are in harm's way because the president. It's the same as the media, who are very narcissistic, like it seems as if this person is saying, well, he's got an enemies list and he's going to go after me. Me. So ever since this announcement, Everbloom Design's social media page had been made private, and calls to the business went straight to voicemail. And now, why is that making national news and now local news? Because it's just a larger picture, and we've talked about it. There was initially a little bit of shock in the beginning because it was such a landslide victory. And again, now they're trying to almost rewrite history days after, saying it wasn't a landslide. But let's, for a moment, just take it as what I'm saying is a landslide victory. There was such a shock that the anger hadn't started yet. And it was a couple of days of a lull. And then it started up again. And it's only going to grow until January 6th, when the election is certified, then January 20th, when he's sworn into office, and then, of course, the next 4 years. But you'll start to see this increase in stories like that. We also learned, well, we've got a couple things on this, and it's going to tie in with the media. We're also going to talk about some international issues getting very scary on the international front. Don Jr., again, I mentioned this yesterday and a few days ago, that Don Jr. is suggesting that Biden is trying to start a World War III scenario to make it more difficult for his father before he's in office. And some would ask, why are you changing all these policies when in regards to Ukraine with just 2 months left in office? That is a fair question to ask. But we're going to talk about this and everything else under the sun. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We'll be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Reality in healthcare today. People are facing rising costs. At Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're here to make sure no one faces them alone. We are committed to ensuring that healthcare dollars are spent as effectively as possible in ways that improve access and quality of care. With 93 cents of every premium dollar going directly toward caring for our members. So every day, every member, everybody benefits.
Today's top story, increasing fuel costs continue to drive up inflation, making it harder to afford everything from food to home heating.
Here at Hustlesons, we know the only way to beat inflation is to fight inflation. So we're fighting back with zero interest financing and big cash rebates. Get a 4-person hot tub for your family for as little as $100 per month and pay zero interest. Or save up to $3,000 on a fabulous salt system hot tub. And of course, you will always get Hustlesons' unbelievable service. Don't let inflation fears kill your dreams. Fight back with Hustlesons. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustlesons.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. There's our view of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. As an update, we brought to you the story about FEMA not helping those that had Trump signs or flags on their property after those natural disasters. A whistleblower informed the House Oversight Committee yesterday, and somehow this ties in a weird way to what we've mentioned already thus far. The florist that refuses to deal with Trump supporters, or you've got that Italian village offering villas to those that want to leave the country because Trump was elected. Well, the whistleblower told the House Oversight Committee yesterday that at least some Federal Emergency Management Agency officials consider supporters of President-elect Donald Trump to be, and I quote, domestic terrorists. And that's a word that they throw around very loosely, and it unfortunately has been used as a label for conservatives, for Catholics, for so many. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer revealed that the new whistleblower claimed a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family last month and encouraged them to get rid of pro-Trump signage on their property. Quote, he recommended that the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from their house and yard, stating that his FEMA supervisors viewed Trump supporters as domestic terrorists. The contractor's warning terrified the family, which was reeling from the devastation of Hurricane Helene, and they promptly complied. Quote, the elderly homeowners were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss that they removed the signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residents, even with that move of removing their Trump support. The chairman noted that the alleged incident took place not in Florida, but Georgia. The whistleblower came forward on the same day FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell was grilled by the oversight panel on allegations that the agency discriminates against Trump supporters when conducting relief work and offering aid to storm-ravaged communities. Criswell insisted during the hearing that there is no evidence of widespread political discrimination within FEMA, even when presented with evidence that employees have acknowledged it is a common practice. Well, she's, covering because they got caught red-handed. They got caught. I mean, think of how much taxpayer funding goes into FEMA. And that taxpaying money is coming from Trump supporters, Harris supporters, but they took it upon themselves in FEMA. And this goes to show you the rot in bureaucracy. They took it upon themselves to say, nope, we are not going to help over half the voting population. It should outrage, and when the media and others are saying that Trump is going to cut too much and this isn't good with the Doge group with Musk and Ramaswamy and they're going to go in too heavy-handed. Well, look at the bloated bureaucracies like FEMA and tell us that we don't need to change. The hearing follows the revelation earlier this month that now fired FEMA supervisor Marnie Washington instructed relief workers canvassing Lake Placid to evade homes and signs backing Trump. After her firing, Washington told YouTube podcaster Roland Martin that she was simply following FEMA's policy of avoiding political hostile homes when she asked her team to avoid homes advertising Trump in a best practices memo. Yeah, she put it in writing. That goes to show you how fat and happy bureaucrats can get, thinking that they're untouchable, and very often they are. But they're politically hostile. Why? Because they don't support the candidate you support. It's just like the florist who said we need a safe space for everyone. Now, Trump supporters, don't ever come in here and don't ever look at me. An official at FEMA corroborated Washington's assertion, telling the Post last week that skipping houses with Trump banners in white or conservative-dominated disaster areas was a common practice. Now, this is still under investigation, but imagine that the money the taxpayers spent on FEMA just to be ignored by FEMA at the end of the day because of who they voted on, who they voted with. Now, we do have an update, and I know I'm jumping through some odd topics this morning, but I think it's all worth mentioning, and this all ties in with the media, too. The media has this distorted view of MAGA Republicans because they, much like that florist, much like FEMA, they and the bureaucracy in general, they're in a bubble. The media is in a bubble, and they are only surrounded by people that supported Harris. And so they're shocked. And I keep mentioning this, but it was so startling to me because I was watching the mainstream media on election night. And the way that they spoke to their viewers was coming from the assumption that you voted for Harris. And so this is how we, meaning them and Harris, have to get to this point to win. It was really eye-opening. But we heard yesterday about the hypocrite Joe Scarborough. And I've got to say, ahead of the curve on this, going all the way back to my radio days, always talking about Joe Scarborough and his political expediency. I was always shocked when people said, why did he do that? Why did he announce he's no longer a Republican? Joe Scarborough has always done what's best for Joe Scarborough at the end of the day. He was a Republican when he needed to be, and then he wasn't when he wanted a job with MSNBC and a cushy paycheck. Now he has taken, what they're calling an ideological U-turn, and I'm not sure if I believe that, but him and Mika Brzezinski met with Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump. And as I said, they went on there. I like how someone called it a hostage video, but when they went on their show explaining, pardon me, their situation and why they did it, but we know what it is. Megyn Kelly, Nikki Haley, so many people have said it. It's about their ratings. After election night, MSNBC's ratings plummeted. And Joe Scarborough has always looked out for Joe Scarborough, and he's going to do anything he can to keep that high-paying job. According to Michael Kaplan, one of Joe Scarborough's favorite words seems to be hypocrite. The MSNBC host of Liberal Morning Joe frequently blasted Donald Trump for apparent hypocrisy. Fuming in October, he makes hypocritical statements every day. Yet despite their frequent blasts over the last 8 years, last Sunday at Mar-a-Lago, Joe Scarborough and co-host wife Mika Brzezinski met President-elect Donald Trump in a bid to settle their differences. There are those, including Jon Stewart, who believe the term hypocrite would be well applied to Scarborough. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw Jon Stewart mocking Joe Scarborough, but it was pretty vicious. And those who know him say such behavior is nothing new. No, it's been his whole career. Anybody that's shocked over this has not followed his career trajectory. Now, I've never been a Joe Scarborough fan, but he's been such a hypocrite his whole life that it's fascinating to see how he keeps moving along, keep chugging along. A former guest on Morning Joe who spoke anonymously for career reasons said, Joe Scarborough has proven yet again that he gives opportunism a bad name. He is the hollow man. There's nothing inside him except for a need for success and social status. There's nothing he won't do, say, or bend. If he was a cartoon character, which he strongly resembles, he would be called Breaky Bendy. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that wants to be like, he wants to be invited to those cocktail parties. He really genuinely thinks people are hanging on his every word and what he has to say and what his beliefs are. But again, proving on that landslide victory on election night, no one listens to what Joe Scarborough has to say. Now, an MSNBC spokesperson disagreed with that assessment, but Trump supporters immediately trashed Joe and Mika for shamelessness and kissing the ring. Nikki Haley posted, let's be clear, Joe and Mika didn't suddenly see the light. They saw their ratings. They realized they needed Trump for their survival, even though their viewpoint is opposed to his. And so, like Jon Stewart said, you go from calling him Hitler to meeting with him. A network source scoffed at the claim, saying any high-profile journalist would want to take a meeting with an incoming president. Scarborough already made one huge U-turn by becoming a host on the most liberal mainstream network. Previously, from 1995 until 2001, Scarborough was, yes, a Republican congressman elected in Florida, who once even called for withdrawing from the UN. 25 years ago, he spoke at the Princeton Club and came there as an elected official holder. Doug Dercher, a media consultant, said, the event was sponsored by Pfizer with free drinks and free hors d'oeuvres. I was shocked when he sold out at MSNBC. My guess is that there's no climbing the hierarchy as a Republican. As a congressman, Scarborough condemned Reverend Al Sharpton for expressing racist and anti-Semitic views. Now he has on his show regularly the guy he calls the Rev. A former staffer on the show remembers Scarborough as arrogant and that he can't deal with executive-level decisions about programming. On the other hand, she said there was a kind of political openness that is not always found on similar programs. You could express policy viewpoints that did not jibe with those of the show, and nobody would excoriate you for it. When Scarborough started on MSNBC in 2007 with a show called Scarborough Country, he was a dyed-in-the-wool Republican on TV as he had been in Congress. And I don't want to go through the whole history, but you saw when he made that big announcement saying that he was no longer Republican, and everybody said, who cared? I think it was like on Letterman's show or something. Anyway, enough about Joe Scarborough, but he has been mocked and ridiculed for his shamelessness. Jon Stewart really ripping into him. So the video of Stewart, he shows a clip from the show where Mika Brzezinski says, why would we meet with the president-elect during these fraught times, especially between us? I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? She said it in such a over-the-top, corny way. The video cut back and said to Jon Stewart saying, because you said he was Hitler. I'm going to do a one-act play called Joe and Mika Go to Mar-a-Lago. And then he mocked the two, saying, Mr. President, your rhetoric is outrageous. I cannot in good conscience. Oh, are those macaroons? We've learned nothing, Stewart declared. Even those putting up resistance to Trump's agenda don't seem to understand who they're dealing with. Republicans are playing chess, and the Democrats are in the nurse's office because, well, they glued something to their thigh. Anyway, so that's why do I bring that up? Because we've talked too much about Joe Scarborough this morning. I understand. But it ties in with a larger picture of the media, because what we see by that hypocrisy from Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski is fear, because the media landscape is changing drastically. A lot of shakeups coming after election night when ratings plummeted. CNN laying off hundreds, or it's announced that they're going to lay off hundreds. We've got a couple other announcements on that, but the AP laying off people. Axios laid off people before election. The list goes on and on. We've got a couple updates on that. We do have some New York State issues as well, so stay with us. We're just getting started, but we're also running late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Hey, Aunt Camille. What kind of kid was my dad growing up? Was he cool?
Cool? He kept his room really neat.
Well, was he one of the coolest kids in school?
Yeah, well, he made an impression.
Tell me some of the cool things he did.
He once stood up to the neighborhood bully. She didn't stand a chance.
Wow, I hope I can be that cool.
You already are, Peter. Way cooler.
Oh, thanks, Dad. Hurt in a car? Call my cool dad. Willie Matar, 444-4444.
Truck drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. And now may be your last chance to get one before they're gone. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. Here's what you see with that ordinary rear view mirror, and here's what you see with Angel View. Look, over 800,000 blind spot accidents occur each year. You think you're clear to change lanes, but you're not. And that's why they call it a blind spot. But Angel View's crystal clear mirror gives you perfect panoramic vision without that awful fisheye effect like other little mirrors. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Angel View installs in seconds to virtually any car or SUV. And the spring-loaded rubber feet automatically adjust to hold on tight. From a senior driver to a first-time teen, and everyone in between. With Angel View, you see them. Without it, you won't. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, there's breaking news. Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. There is a strict limit of 3 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0593. That's 1-800-897-0593 or visit getangelview.com. So call 1-800-897-0593. Order now.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments here from viewers. I just find them pathetic and hateful. This is Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. I just find them pathetic and hateful, not to mention hypocritical. They're narcissists who are only thinking about themselves and go with the wind. That has been Joe Scarborough's whole career. I don't know as much about Mika Brzezinski, but that's been his whole career. Whatever way the wind is blowing, as long as Joe Scarborough is getting that paycheck and feels important, that's really what it's about for him, the ego. It's about he thinks people are hanging on his every word. He's brilliant. He gets invited to cocktail parties. So, yes, I would agree with your assessment. Comment from a different viewer. I like this one. I'll bet that Trump would pay the mayor of Olilala $2 to take Nancy Pelosi. Wouldn't that make America great again? I agree. I bet you even maybe up to $5. If you're just joining us, there's a small village in Italy that is offering homes or villas for $1 for those who have made that really bold statement, which is so cliche at this point, but that bold statement that I'm moving out of the country if Trump wins. Well, he won, and they're taking advantage of it. One other quick update on 2 or 3 quick updates on the media. This is interesting. Comcast has greenlit a $7 billion spinoff of NBC Universal cable channels. Comcast is expected to announce today that it is moving forward with a plan to spin off its NBC Universal cable TV networks, according to people familiar with the situation, acknowledging that it'll be better off without a business that was once its crown jewel. The company, which last month said it was studying the idea, will separate off entertainment and news channels, including MSNBC, CNBC, USA, Oxygen, E, Sci-Fi, and Golf Channel. Those assets generated about $7 billion in revenue in 12 months ending on September 30th. Bravo, known for a reality TV program, will stay in the mothership, along with a Peacock streaming service and the NBC broadcast network. This is just, and you're going to see more announcements like this. This is just moves that they're trying to make, especially when you're talking about news outlets, where they're trying to adapt because their system isn't working. Who was it that actually said? It was on the Morning Joe, ironically. Senior contributor Mike Barnacle said he has no idea how to make cable news relevant again. Well, it's because they're no longer trusted. They did that to themselves. You can't push a bias under the guise of being fair and balanced for decades and wonder why people lost trust in you. I don't know how we make ourselves relevant again because we can't compete with 20-second snippets on an iPhone. Walking up the street and getting your entire news digest of the day in less than a minute on your phones as you're walking in a crowd with coffee in one hand and your phone in the other. I don't know how we can catch up to that. Well, you wouldn't need to catch up with that. It's not about the time of the snippets, as he said. It's about offering an actual balanced news, just actual news. I mean, if you look at, for instance, and people are talking about the influence of influencers. But look at Joe Rogan. Why is he so popular? It's not because he's news. It's because he's asking questions that wouldn't be asked by Joe Scarborough and others. One of the reasons why Harris was afraid to go on the program, because it's not a scripted, what do you want me to ask you type scenario. It's let's get down to who this person really is. And that's even what Joe Scarborough said. Let's have the conversation and see who these people are. Trump, of course, took him up on it. 70 million people either watched or listened to that interview. It's because when you just watch the Sunday shows, watch what happens when a Republican goes on the Sunday shows and the hate and the anger and the quote unquote fact checking. I saw Jen Psaki the other day talking about they don't do these fact checks. We need more fact checks. If the fact checks were fair, maybe, but even if they were fair, the awkwardness of constantly interjecting and interrupting is tedious. That's why people have tuned out. That's why people have had enough of the mainstream media news outlets. But just to show you how out of touch they are, Robert Reich, remember, was in the Clinton administration. He says the mainstream media doesn't use the term oligarchy to describe the billionaires who are using their wealth to enlarge their political power around the world, but that is what is happening. During the U.S. presidential campaign, legacy mainstream media, who mostly answer to corporate or billionaire ownership, refrained from reporting on how incoherent and bizarre Donald Trump was becoming, normalizing and sane-washing his increasingly wild utterances, even as it reported every minor slip by Joe Biden. Take that in for just a second, would you? Robert Reich believes there wasn't enough scrutiny on Donald Trump, and there was too much scrutiny on Joe Biden's every slip-up. I mean, what world are you living in? This is an example, and he's talking about this. He did this op-ed because he wants to protect the truly free press. So to him, the truly free press are the ones that can attack Trump constantly. Like in this instance, he's advocating for The Guardian. Attack Trump nonstop, attack Republicans, MAGA Republicans, et cetera, and cover up, as the mainstream media actually did, cover up anything negative for Democrats. Can you imagine the audacity of that statement? The New York Times headlined its report on the September 2024 presidential debate between the president-elect and Kamala Harris, in which Trump issued conspiracy theories about stolen elections, crowd sizes, and Haitian immigrants eating pet cats and dogs, as Harris and Trump bet on their own sharply contrasting views of America. The Guardian doesn't sane wash Trump or take orders from a billionaire owner. That's why I'm proud to write here, he said. And then he goes on to attack Trump for 4 pages to prove to you the kind of outlet that you need to turn to. Unlike other U.S. media organizations, The Guardian cannot be co-opted by the growing alliances of oligarchs and authoritarians. It does not depend for its existence on billionaires or the good graces of a demagogue. It depends on us. And then he begs for money. Anyway, just too much darn scrutiny on that Joe Biden. There was no scrutiny, mind you, until the debate, the live debate, and they could no longer hide Joe Biden's mental decline. It's as simple as that. And that Nancy Pelosi took him out, and it led to Harris, and Harris ultimately losing. We know the whole story. But think of how they covered him. And then when they ousted him, when there was that coup, that's when they started going after Donald Trump. What about his age? With no proof whatsoever. But it was hard to take them at their word, where in 3.5 years we were told, how dare you bring up Biden's mental health? He's fit as a fiddle. He is the best perhaps he's ever been. So if you keep bringing that up, we're going to label you a conspiracy theorist. We're going to show you how the media has not learned their lesson. And we are going to get there's a lot of international stories that are very, very troubling that we need to get to. And also we're going to talk about Trump's picks. A couple picks made yesterday, and then a little bit of focus. And I asked this question at the beginning of the show because the New York Post asked it, and I thought it was interesting, the take that they had, which is they need to drop, meaning Trump, needs to drop the nomination of Gates and the nomination of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I understand why they're saying Gates in a way. I don't understand why you drop Tulsi Gabbard. But then again, as I mentioned, we had viewers that would reach out to the show saying that that's someone they may not trust because originally she was a Bernie Sanders supporter. So what are your thoughts? I say we're just getting warmed up, but the first hour is almost through. It is 6:37. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hustling plus overbooked, plus bustling, plus cleaning overlooked. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done. Plus too busy, plus bustling, plus in a tizzy. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done.
This holiday season, experience the magic of Crystal City Christmas in downtown Corning, New York. Kick things off Saturday, November 30th. Shop local during Small Business Saturday. Then catch the dazzling Parade of Lights at 7:30 p.m. Join us the following Saturday, December 7th, for the 50th Annual Sparkle from 5 to 9 p.m. It's the event you don't want to miss. For a full list of events and promotions, visit GafferDistrict.com and follow us on social media at Gaffer District.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Thank you again to Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Thank you for the comments. By the way, we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you for joining us. We're receiving comments from viewers. If I understand your question to the viewer that called in and left a voicemail, I can't listen to the voicemail, but it sends me a transcript. So I'm trying to get through it right now. And I would agree with your assessment that Democrats for years have been playing checkers as Trump and Republicans have been playing chess. And in that game of checkers, they have jumped anything they can to try to get that king and will cheat. And when you look away, maybe make a couple extra jumps. But Governor Hochul was appointed when Cuomo was ousted. But recall, there was the election, if I'm understanding this right, there was the election when she ran against Lee Zeldin, and Lee Zeldin coming within very close distance of defeating her. But yes, originally appointed, so it wasn't completely like a Harris situation. She did go through, I don't believe she had any primary or anything, if I recall. She did have a general election, though, 2 years ago. So she's back up in 2026, if I understand your question correctly. Thank you. So now when I'm telling you the media hasn't learned their lesson in trying to push a liberal agenda, Joy Behar now says Trump doesn't have a mandate. Buckle in, this is the new talking point. Hakeem Jeffries saying similar. But on The View yesterday, Whoopi Goldberg said, "I will just say, keep your eyes open and your decision head on and watch what happens. And then decide what you as an individual are going to do. Are you going to get up and make the noise? Are you going to join a group to fight against this kind of stuff? Because it's like a wildfire. This stuff spreads." I don't know what this stuff is. Joy Behar said, "By the way, this idea that Trump won with some kind of mandate is not true. We have information that he beat Kamala Harris by 1.6%. Joe Biden beat Trump by 4.5%, and nobody said it was a mandate. So get that out of your lips, out of your mouth, who say it's a mandate." Another thing, one more thing. Why are all these cabinet members, people that we've seen on television, is he going to put Vanna White on there next? Every single one is known to us. Like most presidents, when you have a cabinet, they find the greatest people from the universe, but we didn't know who they were. It's a TV, pardon me, it's a TV cabinet. Maybe he wants to make sure they look good on screen. Okay, first of all, why the insult on Vanna White? Completely unnecessary. I'm confused by that. But if you believe that Trump had a mandate, now what would that mandate be? Trump overwhelmingly won the Electoral College. Trump won the popular vote, which is pretty rare in recent memory for Republicans. I think the last time was 2004, if I recall. So he wins the Electoral College. He wins the popular vote. Oh, and by the way, Republicans win the House and the Senate. But to Joy Behar, that is no mandate. So get that out of your lips, out of your mouth, who say it's a mandate. Can people stop trying to use that term, get that out of your mouth, if they're not going to get it right? Because they never seem to get it right the first time, do they? And nobody said it was a mandate. So get it out of your lips, out of your mouth, who says it's a mandate. If that is not a mandate, I guess, would she consider Reagan Mondale a mandate when Reagan won 49 states? Or it seems like she has a very high bar for what a mandate is. But Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, who actually got voted yesterday to be the minority leader in the House, he doubts the massive mandate for Republicans. It doesn't exist, he said. Despite the claims of some of my Republican colleagues who have spent a lot of time over the last 2 weeks talking about some big, massive mandate, I'm looking for it. That doesn't mean we don't have to make adjustments to make sure that we can get beyond fighting House Republicans with a national wave on top of us to withdrawal. But the question about the notion of some mandate to make massive far-right extreme policy changes, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's interesting when you watch people rewrite history in real time. Not even waiting, a decade from now where they say, oh, Trump didn't really have a mandate. And you go, I don't really remember. I thought he did. No, this is, hey, remember the election 2 weeks ago? Remember the overwhelming landslide for Trump and Republicans in general? Yeah, there's no mandate. By the way, right before we go to break, one last thing, and then we're going to get to some international news. Did you see Bill Clinton predicts that the U.S. is likelier to elect a female if she's, quote, a conservative Republican woman? Asked if a Republican woman might have an easier time getting elected, he said, maybe. I think in some ways we've moved to the right as a reaction to all the turmoil. And I think if Hillary had been nominated in 2008, she would have walked in just like Obama did. Well, I think all of these cultural battles that we're fighting make it harder in some ways for a woman to run. So you think it's more to do with party than gender, he was asked. He said, no, although I think it would probably be easier for a conservative Republican woman to win. He then went on to mention what Margaret Thatcher did and added, I think we'll have a female president pretty soon. For whatever it's worth. All right, let's take that break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Got the short break.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back. Thank you again to Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Oh, on tomorrow's program, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio, on tomorrow's program, during the Stu Ben Senior Services Fund section of the program, we're going to be talking with Joe Barlow from the Crystal Chords, our good friends, the Crystal Chords. She's going to be joining us because they got a couple fun events coming up, and I want to tell you all about it. So she was kind enough to schedule to join us tomorrow on the program. You won't want to miss it. All right, some international updates. And again, we talked about this pretty extensively yesterday. Biden making some major policy decisions, supplying those missiles to Ukraine. Now he approves anti-personnel mines for Ukraine, undoing his own policy. He has authorized the provision of anti-personnel landmines in Ukraine, two U.S. officials have said, a step that will bolster Kiev's defenses against advancing Russian troops, but has drawn criticisms from arms control groups. The move comes in the wake of the White House's recent authorization, allowing Ukraine to use a powerful long-range missile system to strike inside Russia. Part of a sweep of urgent actions the lame duck Biden administration is taking to help Kiev's faltering war effort. Now Putin will allow nuclear response to long-range U.S. missiles being fired at Russia as he signs off on the drastic World War III escalation. We had mentioned this a little bit on the program yesterday. Putin has given the green light to a fresh nuke doctrine, threatening to use nuclear weapons against the West if Ukraine fires long-range missiles on Russian soil. The deluded tyrant was left raging when U.S. President Joe Biden finally approved use of the far-reaching rockets by Ukraine after 1,000 days of war. Now, adding on top of that, and I know I'm going through this quickly, but it's still worth mentioning, Russia threatens the United States with nuclear war by Christmas, and what can only be seen as a chilling World War III warning. Western allies, also including Britain and France, have taken a big jump towards a nuclear conflict by giving Ukraine permission to fire Western long-range missiles into Kremlin territory. said pro-Putin spokesperson Sergei Markov, a regular Putin mouthpiece. Markov warned that the shock move by President Joe Biden could mean that Britons could be facing a Christmas in shelters. The threat, in an interview on BBC's Radio 4's The World at One, was also echoed by President-elect Donald Trump's son, Don Jr., who suggested that those behind the move to approve Ukraine's use of the missiles wanted to make sure they got World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives. President Biden's move, however, has been welcomed by Ukraine, by senior UK defense sources, and by many European leaders. The move will also allow Ukraine to fire U.S. ATACM missiles, UK Storm Shadow missiles, and French Scalp missiles in Kremlin territory. Those in favor of the move have noted that the Kremlin and its mouthpieces in the state-controlled media and academia had threatened nuclear war every time the West has stepped up its support for Ukraine, including when it provided tanks, fighter jets, and other sophisticated weapons systems. Germany is now planning ahead for World War III with a 1,000-page secret document entitled Operation Deutschland, along with 800,000 NATO troops and 200,000 vehicles. Germany's World War III preparation plans have been revealed in a 1,000-page secret document dubbed Operation Deutschland. It comes after Nordic citizens were told to prepare for war and handed chilling survival guides on Monday as tensions between Russia and Ukraine boil over. Germany is ramping up its national security as fears loom that Vladimir Putin's bloody war in Ukraine may develop into a worldwide inferno. In recent weeks, North Korea has sent thousands of troops, as you know. Fears of war spilling over the national borders has now been sparked, with Germany taking after the Nordic countries and ramping up precautionary measures. The armed forces have begun implementing Operation Deutschland, which has been agreed amongst politicians and contains a chilling 1,000-page strategy plan. According to the top-secret papers, it reveals specific buildings and infrastructure facilities that need specific protection in an emergency for military reasons. The report also contains plans on how Germany would proceed in the event of some kind of threat to defense or even tensions beforehand, potentially alluding to Russia's war against Ukraine. So there is a quick update. We also have, and when I come back from break, we'll talk about it, history repeating itself with Biden letting the UN essentially attack or go after, pressure, I should say, Israel. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor.
And we are back. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and that's our Boss Security Roof Cam. Contact them today for all your home and business security needs. A couple comments from viewers before we wrap up this hour, frankly speaking. As far as cabinet choices go, Biden checked all the woke boxes. Trump has made choices. That's a good point. Question: the death penalty is still on the books. If applied, would it curtail crime? Good question. How is it fair to families who have lost a loved one to know their tax dollars are used to protect and care for a person who murdered their loved one for the rest of their life? I totally agree. It has fallen out of favor, to say the least, to use the death penalty. I do believe it curtails crime because, well, look, for instance, the New York Post had a piece about how and this is a little bit different, but how the young people are not getting charged with crimes in New York State. And we've talked about it in the past and how gangs have really formed of young, under 16, under 18-year-olds committing very violent crimes. And because there's no real punishment, just like that knife attack. And we're going to talk about that in the next hour. But when there's no deterrent, what happened? Youth crimes skyrocketed. And after that report was made, they increased even more. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I do think it's a deterrent, but I don't think I feel horrible for a family that had to go through that. And then you're right, realize that their money is essentially going to house that person with 3 meals a day and getting to live their life and paying for them for the rest of their life. I agree. It's frustrating. Next up, a different comment. I actually agree with Bill Clinton, which is rare. I believe that a conservative woman could possibly win as president, but she would be treated very differently than a woman on the left. Absolutely. If a Sarah Huckabee Sanders type with integrity won, she would be rejected by the media as it is today. Listen, why did they defend Nikki Haley? Why were they propping up Nikki Haley? Because they wanted anybody that could be what they deemed could be Trump. When she didn't, they turned on her instantly. And let me say, and I say this with all confidence, if she would have defeated Trump in the primary, if she would have won, she would have been also compared to Hitler after the fact. They would have said, is she possibly worse than Trump? She worked in the Trump administration. Because keep in mind, any Republican from here on out, because they already did it with DeSantis, is he actually worse than Trump? Is she actually worse than Trump? That is going to be their line when anybody kind of rises to the cream of the crop. Now, you assume that's going to be J.D. Vance, and that will be easy for them to say 4 years as his VP. Is he actually worse than Trump and more extreme than Trump? But yeah, a Republican woman would not be treated the same as, let's say, a Harris or a Hillary. Not whatsoever. I mean, it would. Well, look at how Sarah Palin was treated by the media, for heaven's sakes. And still actually sadly treated by the media. If we want to be honest, whenever she's mentioned, it's in a negative way, in a way to try to destroy her and her family. They did that from the beginning. So you're 100% right. I said I'd mention this real quickly. The UN is ramping up pressure on Israel, and lame duck Biden is letting history repeat itself. It's back to the future at the UN Security Council this week as an outgoing Democrat administration eyes opportunities, to support its boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign against Israel. Members of Congress from both sides of the aisle should respond with one word President Biden knows well: don't. 8 years ago, in the weeks following Donald Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton, the outgoing Obama administration shepherded a Security Council resolution that declared Israel's settlements in Judea, Samaria, and parts of Jerusalem, including near the Western Wall, a violation of international law. The resolution passed by a vote of 14-0, and the United States abstained rather than use its permanent member veto. The move was intended to box in the incoming Trump administration, limiting it to a failed peace paradigm and pressing Israel to give up territory to the Palestinian Authority, which indoctrinates its children to hate Jews and then pay terrorists to kill them. The resolution handed Israel's detractors a thin veneer of international law to conceal a blatantly anti-Semitic thesis that Jews have no right to live in their ancestral homeland, even in their eternal capital, including their regions or their religion's holiest site. If Democrats want to save their party from further drift into the anti-Semitic abyss, they should call the White House this week and urge Biden to halt all such hostilities towards Israel during his final days in office. Republicans should issue warnings to the United Nations as well. A new administration arrives in 60 days with the power to defund and impose sanctions of its own. With unified GOP control of the White House, Senate, and House, the UN should consider its next move very, very carefully. All right, we got some New York State issues when we come back. We're going to talk about the cabinet. What do you think about Trump's administration, how it's shaping up? I'd love to hear from you, but we got to take a break, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, hour number 2, coming up.
When you think boots, think Hesselson's. Hesselson's has the largest selection of work boots in the area. Composite and steel-toe boots, Met-Guard boots, soft-toe boots, and hikers, duty and western boots, all in one location. Hesselson's, Amara Heights. Hesselson's has men's and ladies' boots in all sizes and widths. Choose from the largest names in the industry: Danner, Carolina, Timberland Pro, Keen Utility, Thorogood, Area, and Georgia, to name just a few. Hesselson's has been locally owned and operated since 1955, so when you think local service and great selection, think Hesselson's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for joining us as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's take a look at a viewer comment here. Frank, I couldn't agree more. It didn't matter that it was Trump. Anyone but the machine will be dragged through the mud 24/7 nonstop for years. I have to believe it's divine intervention. No one can go through what President Trump has gone through for nearly 10 years incessant takedown. I know of no one else who could endure what his man and his family have. I agree, especially for someone that doesn't need it. It's not a job that he needs. Obviously, he could have retired and lived happily on a beach somewhere. But to take that hatred for 10 years and now at least 2 assassination attempts, it is remarkable what he's been able to stand up to. I mean, if you look at other candidates that Republicans have had in the past, they would have cowered, they would have stooped and bowed to the media and others trying to have people like them, have the media like them. We saw it with Romney, we saw it with McCain. So yes, I agree. And back to your point, anybody that isn't a part of Washington, because look, that's what's happening now with his nominations. They're saying heads exploded across Washington because it wasn't a Washington pick. Well, good. Isn't that why Trump has been so popular and so successful? Because he doesn't just dig up bureaucrats to put in his cabinet. So thank you for the comment. Quick couple New York State things here. The stabbing spree that we mentioned yesterday has renewed criminal justice debate. Mayor Adams in New York City saying it's a clear example of the criminal justice system, mental health system that continues to fail New Yorkers. That mea culpa comes amid an onslaught from New York Republicans, the state's political minority that is leaning into ongoing arguments that Democrats are soft on crime. And so they are soft on crime. But wait till you hear this next statement. I can't remember what, I think this was from Politico. It's the latest example of how the fraught debate around criminal justice reform continues to bubble up with each act of violence in the city, even as stats show murders and shootings have declined since the pandemic, while felony assaults are on the rise. A couple things to dissect there. Again, I hate to, I guess this is the term we're going to be using for a while, but they haven't learned their lesson. This is so much like inflation, right? No, prices are down. It's actually really good right now. And you'd say, wait a minute, I saw my grocery receipt. I see my bills that are coming in. I see my non-existent savings account. What do you mean? No, look at this paperwork. You remember Don Lemon even, and I brought this to you numerous times in the run-up to the election. Don Lemon saying, as someone said, boy, it's bad out here. I can't afford to live. No, look at my stats here. Look at my paper. Look at what I have. And you're going, you've got to be kidding, right? Same with this. Oh, no, crime's actually down. Never mind the horrible stories that you're reading. Never mind how it's maybe affected you or a loved one's life, this type of crime. And one thing to mention about these stats, they're using stats. Governor Hochul did this before the election, using stats from conservative counties where, yes, crime has, they've done okay with crime. Omitting some of the major Democrat-run cities, really manipulating the stats. It was even called out by the media in some examples of how really misleading and dishonest Governor Hochul had been. But they continue to use those fake stats in hopes that you're not paying attention. But we know it's affected too many people that you know, maybe yourself, to believe them and take them at their word. Now, the horrific stabbing spree shows how politicians still won't lock up the dangerously mentally ill or criminals, I would add. We talk about the coddling of criminals all the time on this program. We've had Sheriff Schramm, Sheriff Allard. We've talked with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano about bail reform and so many others and the disaster that has led to. But this opinion piece from the New York Post says, Monday morning, after nearly 2 weeks of buzz about how the recent election heralded a new era in American politics, New Yorkers were treated to a painful reminder of how much life here hasn't changed. 3 people were stabbed to death in separate incidents across Manhattan. The perpetrator was a total stranger to each victim, and the attacks unprovoked. And we don't have to go through that whole timeline of what happened, but the man who has reportedly confessed to the murders was a resident of Bellevue's men's shelter. His history of arrests, incarceration, and psychiatric hospitalization dates back 2 decades. This was a ticking time bomb case. With some perpetrators, the problem started so long ago, it's hard to say what the original root cause of their violence was. Another term typically applied to these fatal incidents is preventable tragedy. They were preventable insofar as they wouldn't have happened had their perpetrators been confined to jail awaiting trial or to an inpatient psychiatric hospital setting. Because remember, he got released out of jail after about a year. The next day, he committed a crime. They let him out that day, and he was awaiting trial, which I believe was on December 4th. And I don't want to they go through a lot of history here, but Governor Hochul, acting partly in response to Adams' lobbying, has increased the number of psychiatric hospital beds across the state. But that number is still far too low. And as we have written in the New York Post prior, there's no point in trying to commit someone to a psychiatric hospital bed that doesn't exist. Yes, more federal funding for psych beds would be helpful. And indeed, the first Trump administration was fairly helpful on that score. But New York officials would have maximum credibility if they'd done everything they can to put their own house in order before asking for a mental health bailout. And they're still a long way from that. And it also does boil down to bail reform. As Michael Goodwin says, Kathy Hochul and Mayor Adams are deaf to voters' resounding message. Beyond the obvious role in separating winners from losers, elections also serve as a teaching lesson to society in general, he writes. They give direction about what cultural trends and policies citizens favor and what they don't like. That was especially the case with the presidential election. The resounding victory by Donald Trump and congressional Republicans was a clear rejection not only of the Biden-Harris regime, but also of the ultra-woke, anti-family, anti-common sense radicalism that dominates the Democrat Party. Trump offered a course correction with his positions on public safety, ding, 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 parents' rights, a secure border, lower taxes, and less government spending. Along with a strong military, and voters across the country responded with unmistakable support. Unfortunately, as is normally the case, New York has missed that message. Eyes and ears closed, Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams are sticking to their failed approaches. Voters be darned. And actually taking it a step further, if you remember Hochul's press conference, attacking Trump the day after he won election, that should help us out a lot. And they talk about, in this piece, about people leaving the state in droves. They talk about the real fear for public safety, for their own safety, for the family safety, loved one safety. And this is just being ignored by Governor Hochul. Michael Goodwin says, here's my prediction. Hochul's latest approval rating is a mere 34% and hasn't hit bottom yet. No wonder Republicans already are excited about their chances of defeating her in 2026. Adams is also playing word games that fool nobody. Last month, he boasted that it's hard keeping track of all the ways we're getting stuff done for New Yorkers. Actually, it's not that hard because not much is getting done. Witness the background of the homeless madman charged with 3 Manhattan murders Monday. He talks about the revolving door and bail reform. With the city already having spent some $5 billion on the migrant influx, Adams recently said his moves are saving taxpayers' dollars by the billions. His theories seem to be that although the entire cost of providing food, shelter, and health care keeps rising, the number of new arrivals has fallen, and some are moving out of the city shelters, leading to what he calls savings. That's no more persuasive than Hochul's spin on congestion savings. By their way of thinking, taxpayers are living in a safe, orderly, and efficient Eden. Good luck selling that in 2026. And as I had mentioned earlier, teen violence is surging. And a day after the New York Post reported on the broken juvenile justice system, it surged even further. And this is in the city specifically. An ongoing spike in teen violence showed no signs of slowing down Monday, with at least 2 more youngsters attacked in the 5 boroughs overnight. The young criminals are the most violent. The gang members, now they're not going to jail. said Queens Councilman Robert Holden. They should be treated as adults. The state legislature and governor are asleep at the switch. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But this was another virtue signal, right? This was another attempt to say, look, we care. It's like we talked about earlier in the week that now your criminal records are sealed. So if you apply as a felon to a job, they don't know what your background is. They can't know. Just numerous examples of ways to coddle criminals and really attack the law abiding and attack the police. In the most recent incident, the young victim was getting off a 5 train at the Pelham Parkway subway station when he made eye contact with another strap hanger, enough to tick off the attacker, who slashed him on the arm and took off on the train. The wounded teen, who was uncooperative with cops, was treated at the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries, while his assailant remains on the loose. And they go through list after list of this happening. 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. The incidents come as the Post reported on the troubling rise in teen violence, with lax state laws handcuffing cops as more youngsters have become crime victims and suspects in recent years. Critics cite the Raise the Age law that increased the age of criminal responsibility to 18, filling the city's 2 juvenile facilities with older and more violent residents. Prior to the statute, suspects as young as 16 were automatically charged in adult court for violent crimes. Children as young as 9 are being recruited by gangs. It just has to stop, said Queens Councilwoman Joanne Errol. The city is under siege with a kind of Fagan's gang that is terrorizing our city. That's why in the past we've said so often it's Charles Dickens-esque. The governor and the legislature made an error. Public safety is at risk. Right now, these defendants go to family court and are released. And again, they go through many highlights in this piece. But just painting a larger picture of what is happening in New York, while they continue to tell us that public safety is not an issue. But it's very much like in Chicago, where obviously that is crime-ridden as well. Well, the Democrat Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson called President-elect Trump, quote, a threat to everything that is sensible, while claiming Trump wants to dismantle public education and create a system of upheaval and chaos. Imagine an area that is so crime-ridden, just like New York. I mean, this is what Governor Hochul did as well, talking about the threat of Trump. You would think you'd want change, but apparently not. Now, one other quick update on New York from a story that we brought to you last week. 4 University of Rochester students have been charged in that anti-Semitic poster case, and a 5th suspect is being investigated. The wanted signs targeted some of the university's Jewish faculty members, and they were found last Sunday on November the 10th. A 5th suspect is being investigated, according to school officials. The U of R said the charges currently do not meet the threshold to be considered a hate crime. Anyway, that was just an update for you before we take this break. A couple things here, if we get a chance, about, you know what? I do have some issues on immigration, but we're going to go to Trump's nominations. I think we got to get to that before we run too late on this program. And then we have a bunch of other things we'll get to before we are out of time. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we're packing a lot in 2 hours, aren't we? All right, please stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
This holiday season, experience the magic of Crystal City Christmas in downtown Corning, New York. Kick things off Saturday, November 30th. Shop local during Small Business Saturday. Then catch the dazzling parade of lights at 7:30 p.m. Join us the following Saturday, December 7th, for the 50th annual Sparkle from 5 to 9 p.m. It's the event you don't want to miss. For a full list of events and promotions, visit GafferDistrict.com and follow us on social media at Gaffer District.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay.
You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So Trump, as you are undoubtedly aware by now, has picked Dr. Oz to run Medicare, Medicaid offices. What are your thoughts on Dr. Oz? Now, he ran that good but not successful race in Pennsylvania for Senate. Trump said in a statement, well, we'll get to his statement here in just a moment, because Trump, again, if you're not on that email list, it's pretty exciting when they start to come through. Oz is best known for being the host of the syndicated Dr. Oz show, which ran from 2009 to 2022. He gained fame from actually Oprah Winfrey. It's got to be interesting that two people that gained fame from Oprah, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, both went on to support Donald Trump. There's got to be something to that. Now, the nominee is a dual U.S. Turkish citizen, and his links to Ankara include working for Turkish Airlines as a paid promoter and consultant, were controversial in his bitter 2022 GOP primary against businessman Dave McCormick, whom Oz narrowly defeated in the primary with Trump's backing. Oz, who lost the general election to John Fetterman, previously vowed to give up his Turkish citizenship if he were to enter the Senate, where he would have been the first Muslim member of that chamber. McCormick ultimately won a Senate seat this year, defeating incumbent Democrat Senator Bob Casey in the November 5th election. Now they're still fighting over that in Pennsylvania, showing you stop the steal, right? Oz reportedly is a favorite of Trump's wife, Melania, and the president-elect has spoken highly of his ability to relate to the public. He's on that screen, he said in his speech 2 years ago. He also said he's in the bedroom of all those women. Typical Trump statement. But this is what Trump had to say about his nomination of Dr. Mehmet Oz. I'm very pleased to nominate Dr. Mehmet Oz to serve as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. America is facing a healthcare crisis, and there may be no physician more qualified and capable than Dr. Oz to make America healthy again. He is an eminent physician, heart surgeon, inventor, and world-class communicator who has been at the forefront of healthy living for decades. Dr. Oz will work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to take on the illness industrial complex and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake. Our broken healthcare system harms everyday Americans and crushes our country's budget. Dr. Oz will be a leader in incentivizing disease prevention so we get the best results in the world for every dollar we spend on healthcare in our great country. He will also cut waste and fraud within our country's most expensive government agency, which is a third of our nation's healthcare spending and a quarter of our entire national budget. I don't want to give you his whole history. He goes on to give the biography. But I have known Dr. Oz for many years, and I'm confident he will fight to ensure everyone in America receives the best possible health care so our country can be healthy, great and healthy again. So what are your thoughts about Dr. Oz being selected to take over, not take over, but to the Medicare and Medicaid services? I know many are on Medicaid and Medicare and or Medicare on this program. What are your thoughts with Dr. Oz being selected? I know the media is hating this because you've got Pete Hegseth. You've got Sean Duffy, and now you have Dr. Oz, all TV personalities, and they're saying this is all about fame to Trump. It's all about television experience. Well, first of all, if that's the case, you see that number on the bottom of your screen if you're watching President Trump, if you're looking for TV hosts and TV personalities, you see that number on the bottom of the screen, feel free to reach out at any time. But I think there's more to it than that. I think that's a very naive way to look at it. It's a way that they feel that they can attack Trump. I don't know. Again, they haven't learned their lesson. They think this is a winning strategy, even though it's proven time and time again to lose with these certain type of petty attacks and creating this quote-unquote chaos that they create, meaning the media, create, and then blaming it on Trump. If they think that's successful, I'd say just keep it up. And then, or if you want to point to those successes for me, or you could just put your head in the sand like Joey Behar and Hakeem Jeffries and saying there is no mandate. Trump didn't have any mandate. Keep that out of your lips. Keep that out of your mouth. As Joey Behar said, there's no mandate. The popular vote, the electoral vote win, the Senate and the House, and according to Joey Behar and according to Hakeem Jeffries, who yesterday got voted in to be the minority leader in the House, saying that there is no mandate. So Trump also selected Linda McMahon to lead the Department of Education, which he also has vowed to shutter. We'll talk about that in a moment. McMahon previously served as the head of the Small Business Administration during Trump's first term, and she is a former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, a company she started with her husband, Vince McMahon. Linda will use her decades of leadership experience and deep understanding of both education and business to empower the next generation of American students and workers and make America #1 in education in the world, Trump wrote in that statement. The president-elect indicated that he will task McMahon with giving states a larger role in education policy, and that she will pursue the expansion of school choice nationwide. School choice, huge factor in this. Donald Trump, if he is pro-school choice, that will make a lot of people happy, which we know he is, but if he can push that further down the line. Linda will fight tirelessly to expand choice to every state in America and empower parents to make the best education decisions for their families. Noting that McMahon has been a fierce advocate for parents' rights through her work as the chairwoman of the America First Policy Institute think tank. We will send education back to the states, and Linda will spearhead that effort, the president-elect added. Now McMahon previously served for 2 years on the Connecticut Board of Education and for more than 16 years as a trustee at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. Throughout his campaign, as you are aware, Trump did slam wokeness in public education, pledging to remove left-wing indoctrination from America's classrooms. So we assume that Linda McMahon will have that same mindset as head of the Department of Education. So another name that doesn't really come as a surprise. Has there been any surprises for you in these names? Has there been anybody that concerns you, scares you, or anybody that you're really kind of excited about that came from quote unquote nowhere? I didn't expect Dr. Oz. That's not in any way a knock. I didn't. Ever since that failed senatorial run, we haven't heard much about Dr. Oz. So I didn't have him on my radar. I was thinking about Dr. Carson. Someone like that, not necessarily Dr. Oz. Again, not in any way, shape, or form a negative comment there, just a surprise. Now, we had mentioned, and we'll talk about it when we come back, the Department of Education and Trump saying he wants to take education back to the states. We'll find out when we come back what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, what their thoughts are about the Department of Education. That's when we get back, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
Introducing a brand kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power Excel, there's the Stirmax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. Stirmax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking Stirmax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. Stirmax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, Stirmax or Braise Max, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power Excel Stirmax Multi-Cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the Stirmax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your Stirmax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day absolutely free. Plus, every Stirmax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A couple of comments from viewers. I like the idea of Dr. Oz. He's a smart man, as well as a huge help and technical support for RFK Jr. Yeah, that is an interesting team there. So I appreciate that comment. Again, there's no way knocking Dr. Oz. I just wasn't someone I had on the radar. And when we had mentioned, and it was just some talking head, but when we mentioned yesterday some rumors of perhaps people that Trump would nominate, he wasn't on the list either. Next up, a comment from a different viewer. The people voted Trump. They want Trump people. Can't be any worse than what we have now. Also, still missing 20 million votes from 2020. People should be asking why. Thank you very much. And I agree. The people voted for Trump and they want Trump people. So when the media attacks, they show again how out of touch they are when they attack every pick that he makes, unless it's someone that they're not really familiar with their name. But I've even seen some where the name is not really that recognizable and the media still is finding a way to say that they're controversial. But just to tie in with, I told you I was going to talk about what Musk and Ramaswamy are saying about the Department of Education. And then we are going to mention some more about Trump's picks. Corey DeAngelis, who is a senior fellow at the American Cultural Project, posted on X that the Department of Education failed an audit for the 3rd year in a row. Abolish it, he wrote. And Ramaswamy responded, very reasonable proposal. Musk said yes. Think about that, though, that the Department of Education failed an audit for the 3rd year in a row. And, of course, when you start talking about the money being thrown around at the Department of Education and at the state level and local level, it's staggering. So giving us a little insight and a little look into their mindset when it comes to the Department of Education and their program, of course, Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. But thinking that abolishing the Department of Education is a very reasonable proposal, according to Vivek Ramaswamy, and Musk just said simply yes. Giving you a look inside of what we could be looking at over the next 4 years. Donald Trump also announced Howard Lutnick, chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, joining as United States Secretary of Commerce. Trump saying he will lead our tariff and trade agenda with additional direct responsibility for the Office of the United States Trade Representative. In his role as co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, Howard has created the most sophisticated process and system to assist us in creating the greatest administration America has ever seen. All right, now here's what I had mentioned at the very beginning of the program, and I'm posing this question to you again. There is an op-ed from the New York Post. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Though to this viewer's point, that the people who voted Trump, they want Trump people. It's a good point. But they're saying, please, Mr. President, ditch this dreadful duo, Gabbard and Gates. Now, again, I could kind of see Gates because, some moving pieces going on behind the scenes. I don't understand the anger about Gabbard, though I do take notice when the viewer, maybe a week ago now, saying that they were concerned that they're just watching Gabbard closely, that it's not a knock on her. It's just she'll have a magnifying glass on her because she was at one time a Bernie supporter and a Democrat. But this is what the Post editorial board had to say. In January 2017, shortly after taking office for the first time, President Trump had already issued 19 executive actions, and this paper dubbed it Don Nonstop, to which second-term Trump has said, hold my Diet Coke. The MSNBC host had barely dried their tears before the president-elect was nominating almost his entire cabinet. He rightly sees his thumping victory in both the Electoral College and popular vote as a mandate. Make that a plea from the people. Make that a plea from the people to reverse the disastrous 4 years of the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris administration. So not so much a mandate as a plea. Please fix it. But remember, you can no longer use the term mandate. Joy Behar and Hakeem Jeffries both saying it wasn't a mandate. I'm not sure what point you would have to get to when it's considered a mandate. If that's not a mandate, winning the popular vote, the Electoral College, the Senate, and the House. Not sure what kind of standards. Well, let me ask you this. If Harris would have won in this fashion, do you think it would have then been deemed a mandate by Hakeem Jeffries and Joy Behar? Just out of curiosity. Do you feel that they're being fair with their new definition of mandate? Do you think if Kamala Harris had won in the same fashion that they'd say, whoa, guys, settle down. This isn't a mandate. Not a mandate. Keep that out of your lips. Keep that out of your mouth, as Joy Behar said. I don't think so, but I will continue. His choice of Tom Homan as border czar shows he's serious about stopping the dangerous, out-of-control migrant crisis. And Homan actually gave an interview. See how I jump around and then I get late. He gave an interview about his new details of his mass deportation plan, which debunked all this frenzied media speculation and this liberal speculation. He clarified on exactly how the military will be used to aid in the mass deportations. What program was it where you had a liberal analyst on there actually saying, how are we going to stop our military from shooting Americans as they try to stop the deportations? I mean, it is getting that frenzied. I don't think frenzied is a strong enough word. Tom Homan said they certainly can handle transportation, whether that's ground transportation or air transportation, and certainly help build infrastructure, meaning the military. He called the military's role administrative, intending to put ICE agents back in the field after up to 70% of personnel were assigned to other duties, like helping to process incoming immigrants. Quote, the more non-enforcement work the Department of Defense can do releases more enforcement officers on the street to look for the bad guys. Trump confirmed Monday that he will declare a national emergency and use military assets to deport illegal migrants once he returns to the White House. I know I got on a tangent there. Okay, back to this piece from the New York Post. His choice of Tom Homan as border czar shows he's serious about stopping the dangerous, out-of-control migrant crisis. He'll have a steady hand at the tiller with Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and smart operators and Marco Rubio as Secretary of State and Doug Burgum as energy czar. Rumor has it that Mark Rowan, CEO of Apollo Global Management, is a possibility for Treasury, but others in the mix sound good too. At least they won't pursue the free money, high inflation, no growth policies of the Biden years. And 3 cheers for the Department of Government Efficiency. That's Vivek and Musk. The bloated federal government needs outsiders like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to pop open the hood and see what can be fixed, streamlined, or gotten rid of altogether. And if they give New York Times opinion writers the vapors, even better. It's a strong team and one that for the most part the Senate will have no issue confirming, which is why Trump shouldn't be so insistent the recess appointments be used to install his choices. The recess loophole was introduced at a time before airplanes and telephones, a necessity for making sure the government didn't grind to a halt because the Senate was scattered across our fledgling nation. It was not meant to bypass the constitutional balance of powers, nor prevent the Senate from saving a president from himself. A mass recess appointment won't save much time and creates a dangerous precedent. What will happen when an incoming Democrat president wants to install Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as Secretary of the Treasury? It's bad enough we had Mayorkas as Biden's Homeland Security Secretary. What happens when all guardrails are removed? We can predict what President Trump's answer might be, someone else's problem. But he should consider how the needless battles of today, can impact him and his legacy tomorrow. Which brings us to the reason Trump is pushing so hard for recess appointments: Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard. While most of the cabinet picks have been excellent, and some of them risky but promising, Gaetz and Gabbard are dreadful. We plead that he rethinks them. They're distracting chaos agents who won't accomplish what Trump wants them to, and will most likely backfire on his agenda. Start with Gabbard, Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence. We can see the affinity. Trump opposed the Iraq War and wants to limit our foreign escapade as she does. But Trump also understands Teddy Roosevelt's maxim of speaking softly with a big stick. He pulled out of the toothless Iran nuclear deal, then killed Soleimani, the Iranian agent who was fomenting terrorism throughout the region. Gabbard backed the Iran deal and said the Soleimani killing undermined our national security. She's been sympathetic to dictators in Syria and Russia, blaming instead the victims of violence like Ukraine and Israel. She's all speaking softly with no stick. There's a real fear that Gabbard won't provide President Trump with the intelligence he needs, but rather downplay threats with the intention of isolationism. Trump has shown that he can balance the demands of a threatening world while working to avoid dragging America into another unnecessary war. He can only do that if he's given frank assessments by a dispassionate intelligence officer. Tulsi Gabbard is not that person. But even worse is Matt Gaetz, Trump's nominee for Attorney General. After years of Russia, no one has more reason to dislike the Department of Justice than Trump. We can understand him wanting to throw a hand grenade into a system that investigated parents at school board meetings, but turned a blind eye to migrant gangs. But we don't want him to be blown up by his own grenade. Matt Gaetz may provide the disruption, but he has neither the ethics nor the discipline to rebuild a proper system that will pursue fair prosecutions. The congressman may have convinced Trump that he is the subject of lawfare, but it's obvious all he wants is an escape hatch. And Gaetz' own run-in with the law diminishes how the Democrats relentlessly hounded Trump. He resigned from Congress before the release of that ethics report. His own colleagues say he's a sleaze. Neither Gabbard nor Gaetz are singular figures for what Trump wants to accomplish. There are plenty of people who can cast a jaundiced eye at our intelligence services and purge the Department of Justice of bias, and do so without a bus full of baggage. But both represent a bigger problem than their own faults reflect. Trump is wasting important political capital pushing two mediocre nominees out of stubbornness, not necessity. If time is of the essence, why waste time with this? The Senate is ready and willing to quickly confirm almost every member of the cabinet. There's no need to go to the mattresses over Matt Gaetz. Furthermore, if Gaetz is truly loyal to the president-elect and his agenda, he would pull out of the process himself. Moreover, Democrats are despondent after Trump's massive win. Why throw them a lifeline by sparking a battle among Republicans? Not only will Trump's opponents use this to argue that he can't govern, but will also provide ammunition for the 2026 midterm. Cutting Gaetz and Gabbard now shows a willingness to work with allies in the Senate, and it saves countless headaches in the future. Then it's back to Don non-stop. So your thoughts on that? I bring that to you because it's the other side of the position. Believing, and I understand their points. I don't think they sold it effectively necessarily, but I understand their points. So they say the excellent picks in their mind at the New York Post: Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, Sean Duffy, and Lee Zeldin. The hopeful pick is Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is sure to increase troop morale as he promises to reverse the obsession with DEI in the armed forces and focus instead on readiness. We hope he puts an experienced team around him to make sure our military is properly resourced and deployed. They have the controversial, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as you know, and then the inspired picks, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. But then they, of course, said the dreadful, which is Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz. Your thoughts? Is that, to that viewer's comment, is that the Trump people that people voted for? Just a question we're posing to you this morning. But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Stop fall and save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. On 1.75 liter Grey Goose vodka, normally $42.99, on sale for $38.99. Save even more with $5 mail-in rebate. Your final cost $33.99. A 750 milliliter Wagner Dry Riesling, Semi-Dry Riesling, and Riesling Select, normally $12.99, now on sale for $10.99 a bottle. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Hi, Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Frank, I was just wondering if anybody has heard a mention of Jim Jordan for a position. That's a great question. I had not heard his name thrown around really at all, but I would say that there really hasn't been a good kind of handicapping sheet on this, that rumors have not played out, and then you'll have someone like Gates or someone like Dr. Oz that comes out of essentially nowhere. So that doesn't mean anything. I think by not hearing of someone being mentioned, you may be in a better position if that's who you want in is Jim Jordan. Another comment, all I know is the ones that they oppose the most are the ones that we want in. I understand that point. I would say, and that's why I brought to you the New York Post, because New York Post did endorse Trump. They lean more Trump. Now, they're not always on board with Trump, but that's why I brought you that piece, because they're coming from a more we want to see Trump succeed mindset, and they don't believe in Tulsi Gabbard or Matt Gaetz. That's why I brought to you, just to pose the question to you. Okay. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who not really friends, if I'm not mistaken, with Matt Gaetz, has threatened her GOP colleagues over the ethics reports, saying in a post on X, she stated that if her Republican colleagues in the House and Senate were going to release ethics reports and rip apart people from their party that President-elect Donald Trump has selected to be in his cabinet, then they should put it all out there. This is the exact quote. For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we're going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed. She continued, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money, the entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those, there's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do. Okay. Wow, that was a clear message from what Marjorie Taylor thinks of the ethics. Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks of the ethics in Washington. Mike Johnson said, in general, that Trump's cabinet picks are disruptors by natural design. He said on State of the Union that what I'll say about the nominees and the president has put forward is that they are persons who will shake up the status quo. And I think what the American people have believed, and what they've delivered with the mandate in this election is the demand that we shake up the status quo. And so to that point, to kind of bookend it, this is, to what that viewer said, people voted for Trump to make Trump picks. And that is what we're seeing here. Tommy Tuberville, the senator from Alabama, was asked about, and trust me, everybody's going to be asked about Gates and Hegseth and anything. They asked Senator Tuberville, I am worried about Matt Gates, said Larry Kudlow, and I'm worried about Pete Hegseth. And I'm worried, I know there'll be opposition, I get that, but I'm worried particularly about Gates. You've got the word of a convicted felon serving out an 11-year prison term, right? And his 2 prostitute lady friends, okay? They seem to be the principal attackers for Matt Gates. Now, I don't know everything there is to know about this. I spent time with Molly Hemingway, who is a great journalist, has written about this. But I have some feelings. I don't think a lot of people in the Senate want Matt Gaetz just because he's a tough-minded conservative who's going to protect Donald Trump from any kind of nonsensical lawfare and weaponization. You know, Russia, 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 and all that garbage. What do you think about that? What kind of shape is the Gaetz thing in? What do you do about it, if anything? So this again, Tommy Tuberville, saying, well, first of all, no matter who President Trump picks, the media is going to hammer them every day. Great point. You know, we've all been around pretty long. It doesn't make any difference. If you're a Republican, you have got to fight your way through all this. If you remember Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh, we're going to look at facts, not rumors. And I like that line from Tuberville. We're going to look at facts, not rumors. There's rumors up here going around about Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth. All of them will have some kind of rumor when it comes down to it. But we've got to look at facts. We've got to help President Trump. He's not going to pick somebody that's a criminal. He's not going to do that. He's going to vet everybody. He's done that. I'm looking forward to working with all of them. I'm looking forward to backing all of them as long as the facts are there. Now, currently, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance is going to hold a meeting between Gaetz and Hegseth and other key GOP senators. President Trump's incoming administration is moving at an accelerated schedule in order to make good on getting key nominees confirmed in order to start delivering for the American people, said the transition spokesman. Representative Collins, Representative Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, and Representative Stefanik will all begin their meetings this week with additional Hill visits to continue after the Thanksgiving recess. Hitting the ground running. When Trump was asked about Gaetz' nomination, they said, Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz? He simply replied, no. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Let's go through some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank, and have a wonderful day. Well, thank you. Good morning to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day as well. Next up, hi, Frank. I've been listening to you about the Trump picks, and you asked for input. And I like your input here. He suggests that Trump would meet individually, perhaps with each of his picks, or then Get them all in a room together and basically say, what are your inputs on each other? I'm just paraphrasing this, because we're all going to have to work together. And we don't want you getting cold on each other or withholding information because you don't like this person or whatever the case may be. And if you don't like Matt Gaetz, there's some that don't like Matt Gaetz, why? Tell us why, and tell us what you like about each other. Almost like a summer camp session or something to get to know everybody, a team meeting. So what's everybody got any problems with the last 2 picks that's causing the media to freak out? Those type of things. I think that's a good idea to have that conversation. I'm sure he's had individual conversations with each of them, but to get them all together and say, how are we going to do this the best to work together? Interesting point. Now, Glenn Reynolds says that Trump will keep the left on defense in the transition period, but beyond as well. And he goes through and says, look, when he picked Elon Musk, some of these other decisions that we're just seeing as really inspirational. Because right now, Democrats are scared of fighting among themselves, he says. The publishers of newspapers like the Washington Post and Los Angeles Times that used to be hard left propaganda outlets are now talking about the importance of hearing from both sides. MSNBC and CNN viewership is in a free fall. One or the other may wind up being purchased for small change by Elon Musk. This is nice, but will it last? The answer is only so long as the pressure is on. So how do Republicans keep the left on the run? By taking relentless action. Trump has hit the ground running with his appointments, unlike in 2016. Every day brings news of a new nominee, ranging from those designed to horrify Democrats like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General to those designed to appeal to suburban health moms like RFK Jr., or to more mainstream candidates like Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. If they were dribbled out gradually, one at a time, Democrats could organize their patented smear attacks. But the flood of nomination announcements has saturated their media apparatus. With so many targets, it can't seem to focus on just one. The next step, I suspect, will be a lot of executive orders on Inauguration Day, covering everything from immigration to federal employee layoffs and relocations. For example, might I suggest a new federal headquarters in Plattsburgh, New York? Shipping tens of thousands of federal workers to a spot 15 miles shy of the Canadian border won't tip the political balance, since New York is already blue, and the local economy would benefit from the influx of high-paid newcomers. The employees, of course, might not enjoy the Plattsburgh winters. Trump may trigger tariffs already possible under existing law, and he goes on and on all the things to keep them, as you say in boxing, on their heels. Bold, persistent experimentation is what Franklin Delano Roosevelt called it. Not all of FDR's ideas were good ones. In fact, many were downright terrible. But his assault on all fronts kept the opposition off balance and let him remake the nation. I suspect Donald Trump may have something similar in mind. Stay tuned. All right, we got to take a break, but a comment from a different viewer. Does anyone remember at the end of the Obama administration, before Trump went in, that they purged all of the list of all the immigrants that were coming to the country because they were in so much fear that he would deport them back then? They have been so hypocritical about everything, and that they're just saying they do, except they haven't heard a sheep that just follow him in every way, shape, or form. It's a shame that independent thought is going by the wayside. Thank you very much. Get those last-minute comments in because we're just about to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Those 9 months were also 273 days of planning. What about your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. And let's not forget those barbecues you plan in detail for your family and your more vegetarian by the day best friends. That surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
The Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Thank you again to Boss Security and Horseheads for sponsoring the Roof Cam. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. As a reminder, tomorrow on the program for the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of the show, we'll be talking with Joe Barlow about the Crystal Chords. They have a craft fair coming up and also have a Christmas performance. Yes, it's already time to start talking about Christmas. And they're also going to be a part of our Salvation Army Telethon on December the 13th, as they were last year. So Joe is going to join us tomorrow. All right, we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. President-elect Trump is urging Republican senators to block Biden's judicial nominees. As you probably have heard by now, Chuck Schumer is trying to put in a mad dash to get some judicial nominations through. This is what he said. This is Trump. The Democrats are trying to stack the courts with radical left judges on their way out the door. Republican senators need to show up and hold the line. No more judges confirmed before Inauguration Day. Now, you may have heard, but Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg pushed Tuesday to create a new constitutional creature, the layaway president. It was once common for stores to hold expensive items that you really wanted but could not make the payment. So they were tagged and kept on the shelf until you were ready to redeem your item. For Bragg, that leaves Donald Trump tagged until 2029. This coming from Jonathan Turley. In a filing before Manhattan Justice Juan Merkin, Bragg suggested that the court should stay the pending criminal case and defer any sentencing until after the end of the defendant's upcoming presidential term. That would allow a city prosecutor to put a leash on a sitting president for 4 years. Trump would govern by the grace of this local judge and district attorney. In the meantime, pundits and politicians could portray the president as free on a type of work release program. The suggestion is appalling to most of the people in this country, including the majority of voters who voted for Trump. Harris and Democrats ran on this and other cases in the election. The results was arguably the largest jury decision in history. So what this boils down to is Bragg tries to control President Trump by delaying the case. Throw the case out now. Under Bragg's proposal, his supporters would prolong that thrill for 4 more years. The cost, however, would be devastating for the country. The country needs a president, not a president on layaway from the Manhattan District Attorney. By the way, the Trump assassination attempt task force has now subpoenaed 2 ATF employees who they're alleging stonewalling. The congressional task force investigating the July and September assassination attempts against President-elect Donald Trump has accused the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives of stonewalling. According to the news release, for weeks, ATF has not produced any requested documents or made any personnel available for interviews with the task force. However, less than 1 hour after the task force served its subpoenas yesterday for deposition, ATF made its first set of documents available to the task force. We'll be watching that closely. We are out of this is a weird one. I didn't know about this. You may be familiar. President-elect Trump has considered buying Greenland. I forgot about this idea being floated during his first term in office. In his first term, Trump tweeted an image of coastal Greenland with an edited glossy Trump Tower building superimposed on the landscape, and it was captioned, "I promise not to do this to Greenland." Interesting. I don't know where that came from, but why not end on that note? So again, make sure you join us tomorrow. Joe Barlow will be our guest. We'll talk about the Crystal Chords, how you can participate in the Crystal Chords and do some singing. You'll also learn about the Holiday Craft and Vendor Fair coming up this Saturday from 10 till 3 at the Horseheads American Legion, and their Holiday Chorus on the 17th of December at the First United Methodist Church. We'll get you more information on that tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. And it's always, you can continue to reach out to me at that number on the bottom of the screen. That's 24/7. Feel free to comment on the topics of the day. And we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. Only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.